Council. They will give us answers to questions concerning poverty alleviation and the spring tomb sweeping. Let me first give you the updates of the pandemic. Yesterday, China's mainland reported that for newly increased confirmed cases, the number is 36, including 35 overseas imported cases and one indigenous case that was in Guangdong. The new fatal cases numbered 7, including 6 in Hubei and 1 in Shanghai. For increased suspected cases, the number is 26. All of them are overseas imported. Yesterday, for newly increased cured and discharged cases, the number is 186, and close contacts removed from medical observation, the number is 1,418, and the number of severe cases dropped by 62. For overseas imported cases, the remaining confirmed cases numbered 691, including 20 severe cases. The remaining suspected cases numbered 169. In accumulative terms, the confirmed cases numbered 806. The number of cases cured and discharged from hospitals is 115, and there is no death case. By the end of yesterday, China's mainland reported that there are confirmed cases remaining 2,004, including 466 severe cases. For remaining suspected cases, the number is 172. In accumulative terms, the number of confirmed cases reached 81,554. The cases cured and discharged from hospitals numbered 76,238, and there have been 3,312 death cases. Close contacts traced numbered 707,913, and the close contacts still under medical observation numbered 20,314. For Hubei, the new confirmed case is 1, that is an overseas imported case. For cured and discharged cases, the number is 173, all in Wuhan. For new fatal cases, the number is 6, including 5 in Wuhan. For remaining confirmed cases, the number is 1,283, including 1,279 in Wuhan. Among these cases, there are 435 severe cases, including 432 in Wuhan. In accumulative terms, the number of cases cured and discharged from hospitals is 63,326, including 46,175 in Wuhan. The fatal cases, 3,193, including 2,553 in Wuhan. The confirmed cases reached 67,802, including 50,007 in Wuhan. There is no newly increased suspect or remaining suspect cases. China's mainland has also reported for newly increased asymptomatic infectants 130. 2 were converted to confirmed cases, and 302 cases were removed from quarantine. And there are 1,367 cases still under medical observation, which is 174 fewer than the previous day. In accumulative terms, there are altogether 1,077 cases reported from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, including 714 from Hong Kong SAR, 41 from Macau SAR, and 322 from the Taiwan region. Yesterday, on March the 31st, for accumulative terms, we have 76,000 cases cured and discharged from hospitals, so the cure rate has been 93.5%, and the severe cases among the confirmed cases imported has been 1/3, and starting from today, we will also notify the public the situation with the asymptomatic transmission, and for these hidden transmissions, we will guard against the potential spread of the pandemic. So that's all for the update. And April is the patriotic health campaign month, and we call on the people to practice healthy lifestyle and habits, and everyone should be the first person responsible for his or her health. Let's contribute to the health of all. Now, we will take the questions, and please identify yourself before you put forward questions. Now the floor is open. First question, on the right, on the front row, the second lady reporter, please. Thank you. With China News Service, my question is for Ministry of Civil Affairs. What are the measures adopted to ensure that the people who are affected by the pandemic can enjoy a sound life, a good life? We will have DG Liu Yong to take the question. Thank you. Thank you for your concern about the people's lives during the pandemic. The CPC Central Committee has attached great importance to people's life, and specific arrangements have been made. Following the CPC Central Committee's guidance, the Ministry of Civil Affairs has been helping the localities to implement the instructions and the guidance. We help the localities to do the following things. The first is for areas which are gravely affected by the pandemic. It is possible to provide
more than 500, or in urban areas and above 300 RMB for the subsistence allowance to be provided to the rural poor or destitute. There are also some shelters provided to those who find it difficult to have a shelter. Per capita, 300 RMB was provided for those poor population that have been stranded in other places out of their place of residence. They got a subsistence of 300 RMB per person per day. As of April the 1st, total of 69 shelter places have been established, sheltering 13,000 people have got the temporary subsistence allowances. In Tianjin, Jiangxi, the poor families got flour, grain, edible oil, and other food so that they can be helped to go through the rough patch. Second, the destitute population also got enhanced help and assistance. By the destitute population, we refer to the poor. Across the country, civil affairs authorities have made concerted efforts to cover these especially vulnerable groups. In the past, these vulnerable groups were taken care of by their family members, but now their family members are now in quarantine or are treated for the COVID-19 infection. authorities and the memorialization service organizations have been working together to ensure we have a safe tomb sweeping festival. Thank you. Next question. Please, journalist from the first row on the left side. What is the COVID-19 response in impoverished areas impacted by COVID-19? Will there be a big population coming back to poverty? What are the measures adopted to prevent a return to poverty?
We will have Madam Wang to take the question. Thank you for your concern about the poverty-stricken areas. In general, these areas are not so gravely affected by the pandemic, and the situation is improving. By the end of March the 27th, in the light of the three categorizations of the areas based on the risks, except one county in Gansu province, which is considered as the medium risk area, all the other poverty-stricken counties are low-risk areas, and we have already cured over 700 cases which are in the poverty-stricken areas, and it is fair to say that for the poverty-stricken areas, they enjoy the condition to accelerate the efforts and achieve the targets. As for the returning back to poverty, I think the number of poverty population is dynamic, and every year we do find some people go back to poverty. This is normal, as these people are most vulnerable. We start to collect the relevant data since 2016, and we found that the number of people going back to poverty is constantly on the drop, indicating that the poverty-stricken population's capacity to deal with the risks is increasing. But of course, this year, because of the pandemic and also the difficulty lying with the specific population pockets, we may find still some people have not got rid of poverty. That's why President Xi Jinping guided that we need to make every effort to oversee the overall development and help the target population to get rid of poverty. That is why on March the 25th, we worked out a policy guidance to help these people. So this is an overall arrangement. Previously, we may have only focused on the poverty alleviation, but now our focus has been shifted to poverty prevention. So we have adopted the principles like tailor-made measures to prevent the poverty occurrences. And also for the target risk populations, they are now well covered into our specific list of poverty alleviation priorities. As far as I know, some provinces have already implemented the response measures. So in general, we have adopted specific and tailor-made measures catering to the local conditions to get rid of poverty. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the third row, the third gentleman, please. Thank you. With CETV. According to data from the Poverty Alleviation Office of the State Council, the migrant workers' income represent 1/3 of the total income in the poverty-stricken areas. So what are the measures adopted to help the migrant workers from those poverty-stricken areas? We will have DDG Wu Hua to take the question. Thank you for your question. According to our data, about 2/3 of the poor households have migrant workers, and about 2/3 of the household income. Just now you said 1/3, but according to our data, it should be 2/3 of the household income comes from the migrant work in the urban areas. Together with the Ministry of Human Resources, we have made specific efforts in the following aspects. Well, this is a cross-ministerial synergy, and a synergy created from top to bottom, and from a top-down approach as well as from a bottom-up approach. We offer some specific supporting policies for poor households which have the intention to go to the urban areas and take migrant work. We will help them to find the jobs in urban areas, and also help them to secure the jobs in urban areas. And the second, we focus on the specific targets to provide tailor-made assistance. We have made a baseline study, and in the light of their employment needs, we offer the personalized and tailor-made assistance. And thirdly, we provide diversified guidance. In particular, we have the 3 batches policy. The first batch is to migrate a batch of people to other provinces. So we have the synergy between the western and the eastern parts of the country, and we provide such door-to-door assistance. In the context of pandemic containment, this has turned out to be very effective. By March the 27th, the cross-provincial and point-to-point labor transfer has reached 1.38 million person times, and the overall labor transfer is 20 million. So the 1.38 million is the cross-province help, and the second batch is to work within the province, and the third is provide job opportunities specifically targeted for the particular population groups. So we have such diversified and specific assistance. And fourthly, we provide industrial or trade policies to facilitate employment and income generating. For example, for migrant workers, we provide traffic allowances or assistance, and also financial assistance for people to establish their own businesses, and also for learning or training opportunities, both online and offline, especially in the pandemic context. Such online training is warmly received and quite popular. And fifthly, we provide coordination and help to organize such income-generating opportunities. As we have mentioned, there are still about 5 million people in poor areas, but they have the willingness, they wish to go to other parts of the country to seek job opportunities, and we are helping them. So overall, the situation is improving, and now more than 20 million people who are from poor areas, but now are working in other parts of the country to generate income. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the fourth row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. with the CCTV financial channel, we noticed that to overcome the impact caused by pandemic on the poor areas, the poverty alleviation authorities have made specific arrangements. Could you please give us the details and what are the results of such measures? We will have Madam Wang to take the question. Thank you. Indeed, as you have rightly pointed out, in the pandemic containment, because of the difficulties in personnel and goods movement, we do find some slow markets. For example, the winter vegetables from Hainan province and the flowers from Yunnan province, we do find such slow markets.
The Office on Poverty Alleviation has been analyzing the situation on a weekly basis. We require local offices to report the sales of agricultural sideline products. On the 14th of February, the Office of Poverty Alleviation, in collaboration with 7 other ministries and departments, made a joint policy circular on consumption-enabled poverty alleviation. We require the mid and the western part of China to certify the products that are designated to help poverty alleviation. Eastern part of China, the central government affiliated agencies and also some big SOEs have been mobilized to purchase these agricultural sidelines. On one hand, such purchase can supplement the veggie baskets and satisfy the needs of the general public. On the other hand, it can help consumption-aided poverty alleviation. This policy has been welcomed in 22 provinces. 26,000 plus brands and commodities have been certified with a total value of 210 billion plus RMB. The 9 eastern provinces have purchased more than 2 billion RMB value of such commodities and sideline products from the western, remote, and poor provinces. There were several episodes that I want to share with you. Biguiyuan Group, during the COVID-19 response, has purchased a total volume of 1,400 tons of agricultural sideline products from the poor provinces, and all these went to Hubei province. The Merchants Group and other SOEs have helped the selling of fish from Hunan province. So the regional or the sporadic difficulty in the agricultural sidelines access to markets have been alleviated. Down the road, we will continue to support consumption-aided poverty alleviation so that it can become a new normal in poverty alleviation. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the second row on the left side. Thank you. With Xinmin Evening News. During the COVID-19 response, because of the traffic restrictions, some of the people have been stranded in places out of their home of residence. There were also some who were left on the streets. So for the homeless, what are the help provided to them? I'd like to ask DDG Feiyu to take the question. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, because of the transportation restrictions, there were cases where people were stranded in places out of their place of residence. Civil Affairs Ministry paid great attention to the issue. We've adopted measures to strike a balance between COVID-19 response and poverty alleviation to ensure the homeless can stay safe. Civil affairs authorities have established 864 temporary shelters. We expanded extended the time for the sheltering to those vulnerable groups. The temporary food and sheltering have been provided in Zhejiang, Guangxi, Anhui, Nanning, and Bangbu. In these places, and vulnerable who have expressed a willingness to work have also got opportunities for some job fairs. In the future, we will continue to follow this approach. We will make an orderly reception of the vulnerable people. We will also orderly take them back to their places of residence. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the fourth row on the right side, please. Thank you. With the China Media Group, CRI, 2,700 vulnerable villages haven't been lifted out of poverty, and for those already out of poverty have the risk of going back to poverty, and many may need the basic subsistence allowance. What are the measures adopted by Civil Affairs Ministry to ensure the basic needs of these most vulnerable groups are met so that no one is left behind? I'd like to ask DDG Liu Yong to take the question. Thank you for your question, and thank you for your interest and concern in the satisfaction of the basic needs. As you've mentioned rightly, that we are in the closing year and counting down hours to realize the win in the critical battle against the poverty alleviation. There are still people at the risk of going back to poverty impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak. Many of these most vulnerable people need to get out of poverty with their basic needs satisfied by the government. For us, we have a mammoth challenge ahead of us, and the timing is not on our side. That's why the Ministry of Civil Affairs and the Poverty Alleviation Office have worked out a specific work plan on providing the basic needs to the most vulnerable people. We believe we must do a good job in 3 areas, or in other words, 3 policies must be implemented to the great details. Only by doing so can we realize the double targets of COVID-19 response and poverty alleviation as scheduled. The subsistence allowance in rural areas need to be further strengthened. For the poor people that have already got out of poverty, in their families there are some sick and disabled family members. And such people must be covered by the subsistence allowance. And we don't have to verify on individual accounts, individual households. And we can have a dynamic management over these vulnerable people. Second, the destitute, poor in rural areas must be satisfied with their necessaries of life. The willing destitute population who cannot live independently must be collectively taken care of. Good care should be provided to the destitute and most vulnerable people. Third, we need to give full play to the role of some temporary or provisional assistance. Prioritize the optimization of vetting process and streamlining the vetting processes. We should also have a deep understanding of the family members' conditions in the households that have been affected by the COVID-19. We should understand their conditions so that they can get assistance timely. the eligible poor can be included into the scope that can be covered by the temporary assistance. Next question, please. Thank you. With Economic Daily. This year is the closing year of our critical battle against poverty. We are only 9 months away from the end of the year. Will we realize the annual target as scheduled? What are the specific arrangements to realize the goal as scheduled? I'd like to ask DDG Wang Chunyan to take the question. Thank you for your concern in the poverty alleviation efforts. We are pondering over the issue as you did. It is already a hard nut, and the COVID-19 has posed us new challenges. We only have 274 days away from the end of the year.
So indeed, it is a pressing task. Based on our previous study, the pandemic impact on the poor areas can be reflected in the following 3 areas. The first is their household income. The second is the difficulties in business operation, like the raw materials, transportation, and the slow market. And the third is the initiation of the poverty alleviation projects. So previously, the Ministry of Civil Affairs and together with other ministries have worked out supporting policies covering a dozen of areas. These policy documents are being implemented now, and there have also been some milestone achievements. Except Hubei province, all the village-based supporting staff are already in place, and the financial assistance has been distributed. The poverty alleviation projects are being initiated and accelerated. For example, for migrant workers, over the past 3 weeks, we have increased the number of migrant workers by over 6 million, and the work resumption rate has been increased by 25 percentage points. So it is fair to say that the negative impact of the pandemic are being addressed, and we have the confidence to achieve this year's target. For the next step, we will strengthen our efforts and help the localities to catch up with the schedule, ensuring that by the end of the year, we can achieve the targets with high quality. Let me very briefly talk about 6 aspects of the efforts. The first is to accelerate the migrant workers to go to the destination cities. So for the next step, we will help them to secure their jobs in urban areas and provide door-to-door services. And the second is we are accelerating the marketing of products from the poor areas, in particular the consumption to alleviate poverty. And the third is for the remaining poor areas, we will help them to get rid of poverty this year. And the fourth is by the end of June this year, we will utilize all the financial subsidies. And the fifth is to set up the supporting mechanism, and I have already touched upon it just now. And sixth is the relocation of the poor villages and households. We will help them to have a sound relocation and provide them with job opportunities. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the 4th row, the lady reporter in white, please. Thank you. With the National Business Daily, for the tomb sweeping day this year, it is at a crucial stage of work resumption and pandemic containment. So this year's context is quite different from previous years. What are the measures adopted by the Ministry of Civil Affairs to have this break and also have this festival? Thank you very much for your question about the tomb sweeping day. The overall requirements for the relevant authorities is to ensure a safe and sound tomb sweeping activities. I think it needs the efforts of all the sectors. For us, we will set up an overarching command system, and second, we will come up with emergency response and preparedness activities. Furthermore, we will standardize the relevant information concerning the orderly flow of people and activities. We will keep people aware that due to the pandemic containment, people should be aware that there are some specific measures, and they should show understanding to such measures. And fourthly, we will prevent the risks and guard against the potential threats. Furthermore, we should conduct science or evidence-based measures. We can take various measures like the peak shifting measures to prevent the potential clusters of cases. And also we advocate the low carbon and sound tomb sweeping practices. Furthermore, we will try our best to provide people-oriented services for tomb sweeping. Also, we need the support from the relevant sectors and stakeholders. We suggest people who go to the tomb sweeping should follow the local requirements, and there are 5 things to pay attention to. The first is the appointment system. In some localities, it is requested that for people who are still under quarantine, they are not eligible to make appointments for tomb sweeping. And also, once the appointment is made, it must be followed. And thirdly, in the tomb sweeping activity, personal protection should be ensured, and therefore people should follow the guidance of the staff and have their body temperature taken. Also, they should follow the fire measures, and we should guard against any potential risk of causing fire. Also, we advocate the sound tomb sweeping activities like having flowers instead of the fire disaster causing practices. Yes, indeed, the activities might be a little bit different from the previous years. However, the pandemic situation is still in the background, and the safety of the survivors must be guaranteed, and we need to have a peaceful tomb sweeping day. And also, this year, to consolidate the achievements, we advocate the innovation in tomb sweeping activities. We need to pay more attention to carry on the sound tradition while guarding against the potential threats or risks. So we advocate the following practices. The first is to stay at home and host the small-scale memorials or activities to memorize or to remember the passing. And the second, we can have the online tomb sweeping. The localities have already set up such websites, and the families can use such online platforms to have the cloud tomb sweeping. To make the tomb sweeping safe and secure, we should also keep the platform operating in a sound way. The fourth suggestion is for localities with available conditions, they can adopt innovative approaches like to hire the staff to do the tomb sweeping, while the families can view the activities online. And the fourth suggestion is that in localities with available conditions, there can be personalized and tailor-made services. Some services may be free of charge, while others can charge some fees. But such prices should be well justified and follow the rules and the regulations.
In general, apart from on-site and field tomb sweeping, diversified tomb sweeping activities can be promoted to satisfy the needs of the general public for their memorialization activities. Thank you. Next question, please, journalist from the second row on the right side. Thank you. With the China Community News, we've noticed that impacted by COVID-19, some workshops, factories that were designed to help poverty alleviation have weathered some difficulties. How is the situation now? I'd like to ask DDG Wu Hua to take the question. Poverty Alleviation Office has been analyzing the COVID-19 impact. We've been promoting and guiding local efforts to respond to the impacts. There are 3 groups of data and 3 situations to be shared with you. First, the poverty alleviation projects have gradually come back to operation in 22 western and middle part of China. 270,000 small projects were designed to help poverty alleviation. 60% above projects have resumed their operation in the first quarter. 60% of such projects have been resumed. It is a very gratifying number. Second, enterprises and workshops designed to help poverty alleviation have seen an ever-increasing rate in the business resumption. As of 28th of March, in the 20-plus middle and western part of China, 28,000 enterprises have seen 95% of the businesses coming back to operation. The poverty alleviation workshops have also seen a very good rate of business resumption. 28,000 of such workshops in the western and middle part of China, and over 90% of such workshops have resumed their operation. These flagship companies and workshops, which were designed to help poverty alleviation, also brought job opportunities to the poor population. They've provided 1 million job opportunities, and these workshops have provided 300,000 job opportunities to the poor, and 700,000 job opportunities have been provided by the poverty alleviating factories. So altogether, these have provided 1 million plus job opportunities. Third, the poverty alleviating industries have accelerated their growth. Localities are actively mitigating the impacts from COVID-19. The lost time has been caught up with, and there has been focuses on the major linchpins, such as the measures adopted for manufacturing to generate quick returns. And logistic-wise, information services have been provided to connect supply with demand, so that those that have been manufactured can find good access to markets. Some seasonal products have been carefully selected. Distribution has been guided by consumption. Just as DDG Wang has mentioned, we have carried out thematic campaigns to facilitate consumption so that we can have a consumption-empowered poverty alleviation. So these were the major steps that we focused on. We did very detailed, painstaking work on these steps. Besides, we have also provided policy support to ensure sufficient funding for all these activities. For example, the small value loans or microloans to the households, for those who need and should get a loan, can all get the granted loans. We also have some favorable policies to extend the repayment period. The procedures for granting the loans have been streamlined, and there are faster-track services provided to the loan applicants from the poor households, so as to provide funding to their manufacturing activities. With these measures in place, the poverty alleviation industries have witnessed a rapid growth. Thank you. Next question, please, journalist from the fifth row on the left side. Thank you. With China Daily. In the next steps, what are the specific arrangements by Civil Affairs Ministry to ensure the basic livelihood can be met among the vulnerable population? I'd like to ask DDG Liu Yong to take the question. Thank you for your question, and thank you for your interest and concern in the green activity for poverty alleviation. The basic daily necessities of the most vulnerable group must be met. For this assignment, the clock is ticking, and we have worked out very detailed plans with a specific timetable and roadmap. Specific implementation measures have also been worked out. It is a one-year plan with 4 stages. The first stage is deployment and mobilization by clarifying the accountability, specific work measures and implementation standards. And the second stage is the screening and survey. Ministry of Civil Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Office have conducted a baseline data comparison and distributed the results to localities. The local Civil Affairs Authority and Poverty Alleviation Offices will then distribute the data to grassroots level communities. And then work will be carried out door by door to set up the individual household accounts, so that the precise measures can go to everybody without leaving no one behind. The basic necessities of the most vulnerable group must be met. And the fourth stage is to review our progress, summarize experiences and lessons, and then make improvement accordingly. To ensure the smooth running of this thematic program, we put forward 3 specific measures. First, we require local civil affairs and poverty alleviation authorities to work in synergy to have a clear accountability. Second, they should be of a very disciplined group working and correct wrong practices of taking care of a good showcase rather than addressing the real problems. The solid discipline is very needed for the carrying out of the assignment. Third, we should regularly monitor and supervise the progress of the work. We go to the most vulnerable communities to see the actual progress of the work. Thank you. In the interest of time, we can take the last question for the day. Journalist from the first row, the third journalist from the left side. Thank you. China Family News. 52 remaining poor counties haven't been lifted out of poverty. During the COVID-19 response, what has been the impact on their efforts in moving out of poverty? What are the measures adopted to ensure that these counties can be lifted out of poverty without dragging down the realization of the entire target? I'd like to ask DDG Wang Chunyan to take the question. Thank you for your concern in the destitute counties. It is scheduled that these 52 counties are the last batch of poor counties that will be lifted out of poverty at the end of the year. So we will concentrate and pour our efforts to crack this hard nut. They are burdened with a greater responsibility, but they are of low-risk graded regions. In our previous survey, there were only sporadic cases in town counties relating to 10 households, and all of them have been cured. 113 villages were the hard-hit, vulnerable villages among these 52 counties.
So these counties and the villages enjoy the good tradition to realize the targets. To ensure these 52 counties can achieve the targets, in January this year, the leadership team worked out a guidance for the specific measures to help these 52 counties. Now the 7 counties have already worked out the specific work plans. So at the provincial level, we have the implementation plan, and at the county and the village level, they have the work plans. So the work plans and the implementation plans are different. So we have the specific plans covering the daily lives, the relocation, the migrant workers, and also the performance evaluation measures. Also, the potential preparedness for the potential returning back to poverty. Let me very briefly talk about the specific situations in the various aspects. According to our March 27th study, now there are still 374 people who have not received the compulsory education, and also we have more than 4,000 households who cannot have access to adequate drinking water, and also there are about 100,000 who should be relocated to a better location, and we plan to address these remaining problems by the end of June this year. For migrant workers, we now have 83.22% of the last year's number in terms of migrant workers going to other parts or other provinces to generate income. And we also have the monitoring and the evaluation. Such evaluation is to identify the remaining problems and help the localities to address them. For this year's specific work, we are going to prioritize the 52 poor counties, and we have the confidence that they can achieve the targets. Thank you. I'd like to thank the speakers. And for today's press conference, the topic is the bottom line support and the poverty alleviation efforts. For tomorrow's topic, it would be the international cooperation for pandemic diagnosis and treatment. We will have experts and officials from the NHC to take the questions from the media. That's all for today's press conference. Thank you all.